Commander Lee Wubin stood on the bridge of the Harmony watching the stars through the main window. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Today would change everything for humanity. Either they would make peace with the most dangerous aliens in the galaxy, or Earth would become another dead world. The Harmony was not a warship. It was built for peace talks, not fighting. The ship had meeting rooms, kitchens, and comfortable quarters for guests. Commander Lee hoped they would need all of these things. He hoped the aliens would want to talk instead of fight. Park Min-soo walked up to the commander. He was the ship's expert on alien life. His job was to study other species and understand how they lived. For months he had been watching videos and reading reports about the Krellians. What he learned made him very worried. "Commander," Park Min-soo said quietly, "I have the latest reports on the Krellians. You need to see this." Lee turned to face him. "Show me." Park Min-soo held up a small screen. On it they could see a planet that was once green and full of life. Now it was gray and empty. Cities were broken, nothing moved on the surface. This was the Zelon homeworld, Park Min-soo explained. The Krellians conquered it 3 months ago. The Zelons were peaceful farmers. They tried to surrender, but the Krellians killed them anyway. All of them. Lee felt cold inside. How many worlds have they destroyed? 17 that we know of. Maybe more. Park Min-soo changed the image. Now they saw a different planet, also dead and empty. They don't just conquer worlds, Commander. They wipe out entire species. They seem to think other life forms are not worth keeping alive. Chief Engineer Kim Yuna joined them. She was responsible for keeping the ship running and safe. She had been working day and night to prepare for this meeting. "The defense systems are ready," she reported. "But honestly, if the Krellians want to destroy us, these shields won't help much. Their ships are 10 times bigger than ours. Their weapons can crack planets in half." Commander Lee nodded. He knew the odds were bad. The Krellians had technology that humanity could barely understand. They had conquered most of the galaxy while humans were still learning to travel between stars. But they had to try. Earth had no choice. "Where is Ambassador Choi?" Lee asked. "In his quarters," Kim Yuna replied. "He's been practicing his speech for hours. I think he's very nervous." Lee understood why. Ambassador Choi Jinhua was a good man who had spent his life making peace between nations on Earth. But this was different. This time he had to speak for all of humanity. If he failed, there would be no second chance. The bridge door opened, and Ambassador Choi walked in. He was wearing his best formal clothes, but his face was pale. He carried a briefcase full of papers and documents about Earth's culture, science, and history. "Commander," Ambassador Choi said, "are we really doing the right thing? Maybe we should have sent warships instead of a peace mission." "What warships?" Lee replied sadly. "We have 12 combat ships in the entire human fleet. The Krellians have thousands." "No, Ambassador. Talking is our only chance." Dr. Song Haeun, the cultural expert, was also on the bridge. She studied how different species lived and thought. Her job was to help them understand alien minds and customs. "I've been studying Krellian behavior patterns," Dr. Song said. "They're very strange. They seem to have no emotions like humans do. They don't feel sorry for others. They don't feel guilty about killing. They see other species as objects, not living beings." "That's what worries me," Park Min-soo added. "In all their communications, they never show any sign of mercy. They demand complete surrender or total destruction. There's no middle ground." The ship's communication system made a soft sound. A voice spoke from the speakers. "Commander Lee, this is navigation. We're approaching Station Nexus. The Krellian ships are already there. Sir, there are a lot of them." Lee walked to the main control panel and pressed a button. The front window changed to show what was ahead of them. Station Nexus was a large metal structure floating in space. It was built for meetings between different species. It was supposed to be neutral ground where everyone was safe, but surrounding the station were dozens of Krellian warships. Each one was huge and dark, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They looked like metal monsters waiting to strike. "My God," whispered Ambassador Choi. "They brought an entire fleet." They want to make sure we understand our position, Dr. Song observed. This is psychological warfare. They're trying to frighten us before the talks even begin. Chef Han Junho, who ran the ship's kitchen, came onto the bridge. He was carrying a tray of food. Steam rose from several bowls of rice and vegetables. I thought you might be hungry, he said simply. It's important to eat before important meetings. Commander Lee smiled for the first time in days. Thank you, Han Junho. You always know what we need. The chef nodded and set the tray down. I've been preparing special meals for our guests, too. I hope they will be hungry. I don't think Krellians eat the same food we do, Park Min-soo said. Maybe not, Han Junho replied. But everyone gets hungry. Everyone needs to eat. Food brings people together. Dr. Song looked interested. Actually, that's a good point. Food sharing is important in many cultures. It shows trust and friendship. The EO, Krellians don't have friends, Ambassador Choi said darkly. They have slaves and enemies, nothing else. The communication system spoke again. Commander, the Krellians are sending a message. Put it through, Lee ordered. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge. It spoke human words, but the accent was strange and frightening. Human vessel, you will dock at Bay 7. You will bring no weapons. You will bring no recording devices. You have one of your solar cycles to prove your species is worth keeping alive. If you fail, your homeworld will be destroyed. This is the only warning you will receive. The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Ambassador Choi took a deep breath. Well, at least they're giving us a chance to talk. One day, Commander Lee said quietly. We have 1 day to save Earth. Kim Yuna checked her instruments. All systems are ready, Commander. We're as prepared as we can be. The Harmony moved slowly toward Station Nexus. Behind them, Earth was very far away. Ahead of them waited the most dangerous aliens in the galaxy. In between was one small ship carrying humanity's only hope for survival. Commander Lee watched the Krellian warships grow larger as they approached. He thought about his family back on Earth. He thought about all the people who were counting on them. He thought about the 17 dead worlds that the Krellians had destroyed. Remember, he told his crew, we're not just fighting for our lives today. We're fighting for the right of humanity to exist in this galaxy. Whatever happens, we face it together. The docking bay opened ahead of them like a great metal mouth, ready to swallow their small ship whole. The meeting room on Station Nexus was cold and gray. The walls were made of metal and the lights were too bright. There were no decorations, no plants, nothing that made the place feel welcoming. It was built for business, not friendship. Ambassador Choi Jinhwa sat at one end of a long table. His hands were folded in front of him, but Commander Lee could see they were shaking slightly. Across from them, 3 empty chairs waited for the Krellian delegation. Dr. Song Hyun checked her recording device one more time. Remember, they said no recording equipment, but this is just for translation help. It should be fine. Park Min-soo looked at his notes about Krellian biology. Their hearing is much better than ours. They can probably hear our heartbeats from across the room. Try to stay calm. The door on the far side of the room opened with a loud hiss. What walked through was unlike anything the humans had ever seen in person. The Krellians were tall, much taller than any human. Their skin looked like dark metal armor, but it moved like it was alive. They had 4 arms instead of 2, and their faces were long and narrow with big black eyes. War Prime Technal entered first. He was the leader of this group, and his armor was decorated with symbols that probably meant he had won many battles. Behind him came 2 smaller Krellians. One was older and covered in scars. The other looked younger, with cleaner armor. The younger one was Sub-Commander Vektar. His eyes moved around the room, looking at everything. He seemed curious about the humans, but he tried to hide it. War Prime Technal did not sit down. He stood behind his chair and stared at the humans with his black eyes. When he spoke, his voice was deep and harsh. I am War Prime Technal of the Krellian Empire. You are the representatives of the species called humans. You have requested this meeting. Speak. Ambassador Choi stood up slowly. He had practiced this moment many times, but now his mouth felt dry. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I am Ambassador Choi Jinhwa, speaking for all of humanity. We come in peace, hoping to find a way for our species to coexist in this galaxy. Technol made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not pleasant. Coexist. You use interesting words, human. There is no coexistence in this galaxy. There are only the strong and the weak, the rulers and the ruled. The scarred Krellian stepped forward. I am battle leader Kexmore. I have conquered 47 worlds for the Empire. On each world, the native species said the same words you just spoke. They all wanted to coexist. They are all dead now. Ambassador Choi felt his heart sink, but he continued. Surely there must be some way to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Humans are peaceful by nature. We don't want to fight anyone. Peaceful, Technol repeated. Another interesting word. Do you know what we call peaceful species? We call them extinct. The Warprime walked around the table toward the humans. Commander Lee tensed, ready to protect his people, but Technol stopped a few feet away. Your species is small and weak, the Krellian said. You have only one world. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys. Why should the Empire waste time talking to you instead of simply taking what we want? Dr. Song Haeun had been watching the aliens carefully. She noticed something that the others missed. The young one, Vectar, was watching the humans with more than just military interest. His head tilted slightly when they spoke, like he was trying to understand something deeper than just their words. May I ask a question? Dr. Song said politely. Technol turned his dark eyes toward her. Speak. In all your conquests, have you ever encountered a species that surprised you? That offered something you did not expect? Battle Leader Kexmore answered first. Surprises are weaknesses waiting to be exploited. We study every species before we conquer them. There are no surprises. But Sub-Commander Vectar spoke for the first time. His voice was younger, less harsh than the others. The Zelen farmers tried to give us their harvest. They offered us food when we came to destroy them. It was unusual. Technol looked angry at his subordinate. The Zelens offered us nothing of value. Food is not wealth. Food is not power. But they offered it freely, Vectar said quietly. Even knowing we came to kill them, they still offered to feed us. Commander Lee saw an opening. That's what humans call hospitality. We believe that sharing what we have makes us all stronger. Sharing makes you weaker. Kexmore snapped. Every resource you give away is one less resource for your own survival. Ambassador Choi tried a different approach. What if I told you that humans have something that no other species in the galaxy possesses? Something that could benefit the Empire? Technol's eyes narrowed. What could your primitive species possibly offer the mighty Krellian Empire? Before Choi could answer, the room's communication system activated. A Krellian voice spoke in their own language. Technol listened, then responded sharply. The conversation was quick and angry. When it ended, Technol looked back at the humans. The High Command grows impatient. They want to know why I am wasting time with weak creatures who have nothing to offer. What did you tell them? Commander Lee asked. I told them I am following protocol. But my patience is limited, humans. You have half a day remaining. If you cannot prove your value to the Empire, I will recommend immediate termination of your species. Dr. Song noticed that Vectar looked uncomfortable when his leader mentioned termination. The young Krellian's eyes moved between the humans and his superiors. Warprime, Ambassador Choi said carefully. Would you be willing to see a demonstration of human culture? Perhaps we could show you something about how we live. Culture is irrelevant, Kexmore said. Only strength matters. But Technol seemed curious despite himself. What sort of demonstration? Something simple. Something that shows what makes humans different from other species you have encountered. The Warprime thought for a long moment. You have 2 hours. If this demonstration does not impress me, the negotiations will end immediately. As the Krellians left the room, Dr. Song grabbed Commander Lee's arm. Did you see the young one? Vectar? He's different from the others. He actually seemed interested in what we were saying. Park Min-soo nodded. I noticed it too. When they talked about the Zelans offering food, he seemed almost sad. Krellians don't feel sadness, Ambassador Choi said. At least that's what all the reports say. Maybe the reports are wrong, Commander Lee suggested. Maybe we just need to find the right way to reach them. Dr. Song was already making notes. We need to plan this demonstration carefully. We might only get one chance to show them what humanity is really about. Outside the room, they could hear Krellian voices speaking in their harsh language. The sounds echoed down the metal corridors of Station Nexus like warnings of what would happen if they failed. Commander Lee looked at his team. Whatever we show them, it has to be something completely unexpected. Something that will make them question everything they think they know about other species. The clock was ticking. Humanity's fate would be decided in the next few hours, and they still had no idea what demonstration could possibly save their species from extinction. Commander Lee paced back and forth in the small room they had been given on Station Nexus. Ambassador Choi sat at a desk writing notes and crossing them out again. Dr. Song and Park Min-soo were looking through their research files, trying to find something that might impress the Krellians. We're running out of time, Lee said, checking his watch. 1 hour left and we still don't know what to show them. What about our technology? Park Min-soo suggested. Maybe we could demonstrate our medical advances or our space travel methods. Their technology is much better than ours, Dr. Song replied. Showing them our science would only prove how primitive we are. Ambassador Choi looked up from his notes. What about our art, music, literature? They don't seem to care about culture, Lee said. Remember what they said, only strength matters to them. A soft knock came at the door. Chef Han Junho entered, carrying a large tray covered with a white cloth. The smell of cooked food filled the room immediately. I thought you might be hungry, Han Junho said simply. You've been working very hard, and you haven't eaten anything since this morning. He set the tray down on the table and pulled away the cloth. Underneath were several bowls of steaming rice, grilled meat, and vegetables. There was also a container of kimchi, the spicy fermented cabbage that was popular in Korean cooking. Han Junho, we don't have time to eat right now, Commander Lee said. We need to figure out what to show the Krellians. But Dr. Song was staring at the food with a strange expression on her face. Wait a minute. Han Junho, you made this for us? Of course, the chef replied. I always cook for the crew. It's my job to make sure everyone eats well. But you could have just given us emergency rations. This is real cooking. You spent time making this special for us. Han Junho looked confused. Why would I give you bad food when I can make good food? You're my friends. Friends take care of each other. Dr. Song stood up suddenly. That's it. That's what makes humans different. Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Lee asked. Think about it, Dr. Song said excitedly. Han Junho just showed us the answer. He didn't just give us food to keep us alive. He made it special because he cares about us. That's what humans do. We take care of each other, even when we don't have to. Park Min-soo was starting to understand. The Krellians see other species as tools or threats, but humans see other beings as people. Exactly, Dr. Song continued. And how do humans show care for each other? We share meals. We invite people to eat with us. It's one of the most basic human behaviors. Ambassador Choi looked at the food, then at Han Junho. You want us to invite the Krellians to eat with us, why not? Dr. Song asked. Think about what Sub-Commander Vectar said. The Zelans offered them food and it seemed to affect him somehow. Maybe food sharing is something the Krellians have never really experienced. Commander Lee was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded, slowly. It's crazy enough that it might work. The worst they can do is say no. Actually, the worst they can do is kill us all, Park Min-soo pointed out. They're going to do that anyway if we don't impress them, Lee replied. Han Junho, can you make enough food for our guests? The chef smiled. I always make extra. There's plenty for everyone. 20 minutes later, they were back in the meeting room. But this time it looked different. Instead of the cold metal table, Han Junho had set up a smaller round table with chairs for everyone. He had covered it with a simple white cloth and arranged the food in the center where everyone could reach it. The smell of the Korean dishes filled the room. Rice, grilled beef, spicy vegetables, and the strong smell of fermented kimchi created an atmosphere that was completely different from the sterile military environment of the station. When the Krellians entered, they stopped immediately. War Prime. Theknal's black eyes moved from the humans to the table to the food. "What is this?" he demanded. Commander Lee stood up. "This is our demonstration, War Prime. This is what makes humans different from every other species you have encountered." Battle Leader Kexmore stepped closer to the table. His nose holes flared as he smelled the food. "You want to show us your eating habits? This is your great demonstration?" "Not just eating," Ambassador Choi said carefully. "Sharing. We want to share a meal with you." The three Krellians looked at each other. Sub-Commander Vektar spoke first. "You want us to consume nutrition in your presence?" "We want you to eat with us," Dr. Song explained. "As equals, as friends." Theknal made that harsh sound that might have been laughter. "Friends. There is that word again. Krellians do not have friends." "Maybe that's the problem," Commander Lee said quietly. The room became very quiet. Kexmore's hand moved toward his weapon. "Are you suggesting that the Krellian Empire has problems, human?" Lee realized he had made a mistake, but he continued. "Anyway, I'm suggesting that maybe there's more to life than just conquering and destroying. Maybe there's something to be gained from connection, from sharing." Han Junho stepped forward with a plate in his hands. He had put a small amount of each dish on it: rice, meat, vegetables, and a tiny portion of kimchi. "Here," he said simply, offering the plate to War Prime Theknal. "Try it." Theknal stared at the plate like it was a weapon. "You expect me to consume unknown substances from your world?" "I expect you to trust us," Han Junho replied. "The same way we're trusting you, not to kill us right now." To everyone's surprise, the chef picked up a piece of the meat with his fingers and ate it. "See? It's safe, it's good." He held the plate out again. "Please, just try one bite." Sub-Commander Vektar looked at his superiors, then back at the food. "War Prime, perhaps we should at least analyze the nutritional content." "It's not about nutrition," Dr. Song said softly. "It's about trust. It's about saying that we're all living beings who deserve to sit at the same table." Kexmore snorted. "Ridiculous sentiment. Food is fuel, nothing more." But Theknal was still staring at the plate. Something in his expression had changed. "On Krell, eating is done alone. It is a private function. Sharing nutrition with others is unknown to us." "Unknown doesn't mean wrong," Commander Lee said. Very slowly, Theknal reached out with one of his forearms and took a small piece of rice from the plate. He examined it carefully, smelled it, then put it in his mouth. His black eyes widened slightly. Not because the taste was strange, but because of what he felt when he swallowed food that had been offered freely by another being. Sub-Commander Vektar watched his leader carefully. Then, without asking permission, he reached out and took a small piece of the kimchi. The fermented vegetables were spicy and sour, completely unlike anything in Krellian cuisine. Vektar's face changed as he chewed. His eyes seemed to become brighter somehow. "This is unusual," he said quietly. "Good unusual or bad unusual?" Han Junho asked with a smile. "I am not certain," Vektar replied. "But I would like to try more." "Battle leader," Kexmore looked angry. "This is foolishness. We are warriors, not civilians sharing social rituals." But even as he spoke, his eyes kept moving to the food. The smells were affecting him too, though he tried to hide it. Commander Lee sat down at the table. "War Prime, please, sit with us. Let us share this meal together, and then you can make your decision about humanity." For a long moment, Theknal stood motionless. Then, slowly, he moved to the chair across from Lee and sat down. It was the first time in Krellian history that a War Prime had sat at the same table as members of another species, not as conqueror and conquered, but as equals sharing a meal. 3 hours had passed since the shared meal ended. Warprime Technol sat alone in his quarters aboard the Krellian flagship, staring at his hands. The taste of the human food was gone, but something else remained. A feeling he had no words, for in his own language, the door to his quarters opened and Sub-Commander Vektar entered. The young Krellian looked troubled. Warprime, I have been thinking about what happened in that room. Technol looked up. As have I, Sub-Commander. As have I. The humans. They treated us as if we were equals, not enemies, not subjects to be conquered. Equals. Yes, Technol said quietly. In all my campaigns, in all my victories, no species has ever done such a thing. Vektar moved closer. Warprime, I must ask something that may be considered treasonous. When the human gave us food, when he smiled at us without fear, did you feel something change inside you? Technol was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. I felt something I have never felt before. When that human chef offered me food from his own hands, when he ate first to show it was safe, I felt trusted. And when I ate it, I felt connected, Vektar finished, like we were part of something larger than ourselves. Such feelings are weakness, Technol said, but his voice lacked conviction. Are they? Vektar asked. Or are they strength we never knew existed? Before Technol could answer, his communication device activated. The harsh voice of High Command filled the room. Warprime Technol, report your status immediately. Technol. Activated the communicator. This is Warprime Technol reporting. What is your assessment of the human species? Are they suitable for conquest or must they be eliminated entirely? Technol hesitated. How could he explain what had happened? How could he tell the High Command that a simple meal had changed everything he thought he knew about other species? The humans are unusual, High Command. They possess capabilities that we did not expect. Explain. They demonstrate a form of social cohesion that strengthens their species rather than weakening it. They share resources freely, which creates loyalty rather than dependence. This sounds like the babbling of conquered weaklings, the voice replied coldly. Do they possess military strength or not? Their military is weak, but their social structure is formidable. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again, and Technol could hear anger in it. Warprime, you have been contaminated by exposure to inferior thinking. Report to the High Command immediately for reconditioning. Battle Leader Kexmore will assume command of the operation. High Command, I request more time to study. Your request is denied. The human species will be eliminated within one solar cycle. The Devastator fleet has been dispatched to their homeworld. You will return to Krell immediately. The communication ended. Technol stared at the device in horror. The Devastator fleet? Vektar whispered. But Warprime, the humans showed us kindness. They trusted us with their food, their culture. They treated us as beings worthy of respect. It does not matter, Technol said, but his voice was heavy with something that might have been regret. The High Command has made their decision. Meanwhile, on the human ship Harmony, Captain Shinteri was monitoring long-range communications. Her job was to watch for any signals that might indicate danger to Earth or the diplomatic mission. What she found made her blood run cold. Commander Lee, she called over the ship's communication system. You need to get to the bridge immediately. We have a problem. Lee arrived within minutes, followed by the rest of the diplomatic team. What is it, Captain? I've been tracking Krellian military communications. They're moving the Devastator fleet toward Earth. Estimated arrival time is 72 hours. Ambassador Choi went pale. But we still have half a day left for negotiations. They agreed to give us a full solar cycle. Apparently they changed their minds, Park Min-soo said grimly. The question is, do we run for Earth to warn them, or do we stay here and try to stop this somehow? Dr. Song was studying the communication logs on Captain Shin's screen. Look at this. There are disagreements in their command structure. Some of the Krellian officers are questioning the order to destroy Earth. Which officers? Lee asked. I can't tell for certain, but the communication suggests that War Prime Technol has been removed from command. Someone called Battle Leader Kexmore is now in charge of the operation. Commander Lee thought about the shared meal, about the way Sub-Commander Vector had looked when he tasted the kimchi, about the strange expression on Technol's face when he realized what it meant to be offered food as a friend rather than demanded as a conqueror. We're not running, he decided. If there are Krellians who are questioning this attack, maybe we can reach them. Maybe what happened in that meeting room can happen again, on a larger scale. That's a big maybe, Commander, Park Min-soo pointed out. It's the only maybe we have, Lee replied. Back on the Krellian flagship, Sub-Commander Vector made a decision that would have been unthinkable just days before. He accessed the ship's communication system and began broadcasting on frequencies he knew other Krellian vessels would monitor. His message was simple but revolutionary. This is Sub-Commander Vector to all ships of the fleet. I have experienced something that challenges everything we have been taught about other species. The humans did not grovel before us. They did not offer us tribute or military intelligence. Instead, they offered us food. They shared their sustenance with us as equals. They showed us trust, and in return I felt something I have no name for. I felt connection. I felt belonging. The response was immediate and angry. Battle Leader Kexmore's voice cut through the communication channels. Sub-Commander Vector, you are relieved of duty. Report to the brig immediately for charges of sedition and contamination by inferior species. But Vector continued his broadcast. Fellow Krellians, we have conquered 17 worlds. On each world we found species that begged for mercy, offered us wealth, or fought us with weapons. The humans did none of these things. They offered us friendship. And for the first time in my life, I understood what we have been destroying all these years. We have been destroying the very thing that could make us stronger. Other voices began joining the communication channel. Some were angry, supporting Kexmore's position, but others were uncertain, asking questions. What does this mean for the Empire? Are we questioning the High Command? What is this feeling the Sub-Commander speaks of? War Prime Technol, who was supposed to be preparing for departure, made his own choice. He activated his personal communicator and sent a coded message to Commander Lee aboard the Harmony. The message was brief. The Devastator fleet comes for your world. 70 standard hours. Some among us remember the taste of shared food. We will try to help, but we may die for it. The humans showed us something we did not know we were missing. Perhaps it is worth dying for. When Lee received the message, he gathered his team immediately. It started, he told them. The shared meal did more than just impress them. It split them. Some Krellians are beginning to question their empire's methods. Will it be enough? Ambassador Choi asked. Lee looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth and all the people who were counting on them. I don't know. But for the first time since this mission began, I have hope. Earth's sky turned dark as the Krellian Devastator fleet arrived. Hundreds of massive warships blocked out the sun, their weapon systems charging with energy that could crack planets. On the surface, people looked up in terror at the alien armada that had come to end their world. Admiral Park Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Seoul. Around him, 12 human warships prepared for a battle they could not win. Earth's entire space navy was smaller than a single Krellian battle group. All ships, this is Admiral Park. He spoke into his communicator. Today we defend not just our planet, but the right of humanity to exist in this galaxy. We may not survive this fight, but we will make sure they remember us. The Krellian fleet formed into attack formation. Battle Leader Kexmore's voice echoed. Across all frequencies. Humans of the planet Earth, your diplomatic mission has failed. Your species has been judged unworthy of existence. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. But before Admiral Park could respond, another voice cut through the communications. It was War Prime Technol, broadcasting from a stolen Krellian cruiser. All ships, this is War Prime Technol. I speak to both Krellian and human vessels. 3 days ago, the humans did something that no species in the galaxy has ever done. They shared their food with us. not as tribute to avoid conquest, not as a desperate bargain for their lives. They shared it because they believed we deserved kindness. Kexmore's angry voice interrupted. Teknal, you are a traitor to the Empire. All vessels, ignore his treasonous words. But Teknal continued. When the human chef placed food before me, he smiled. When I ate it, I felt something I had never experienced. I felt welcomed. I felt valued as a living being, not as a tool of war. In that moment, I understood what we have been destroying, all across the galaxy. We have been killing the very thing that could save us from our own emptiness. Sub-Commander Vektar's ship moved away from the main fleet, joining Teknal's position between Earth and the Devastator fleet. This is Sub-Commander Vektar, he broadcast. The humans taught me that there is strength in connection, that sharing makes us more than we are alone. I will not be part of destroying that lesson. More Krellian ships began to break formation. Not many, but enough to create confusion in the fleet. Kexmore realized his authority was crumbling. All loyal ships open fire on the human planet immediately. Destroy the traitor vessels as well. The battle began with flashes of energy that lit up space like artificial lightning. The Devastator fleet was enormous, but it was divided. Some ships fired on Earth while others turned their weapons on their own former allies. Admiral Park led the human fleet in a desperate charge against the Krellian attackers. The Soul and her sister ships were tiny compared to the alien warships, but they fought with the courage of beings defending their only home. Admiral, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Harmony. Commander Lee is requesting permission to join the battle. The Harmony is a diplomatic vessel, Park replied while dodging enemy fire. She has no weapons. Sir, they say they have something else, something that might turn the tide. On board. The Harmony, Chef Han Junho was making the most important meal of his life. He had contacted every human ship in the fleet, asking them to share whatever food they had. Now the small diplomatic vessel was broadcasting on all frequencies, sending not weapons or threats but the story of a shared meal. Commander Lee spoke into the communicator while Han Junho worked behind him. This is Commander Lee of the Human Vessel Harmony, broadcasting to all ships. 3 days ago, we sat at a table with our enemies. We offered them food from our own hands. We showed them that different species could share the same table, breathe the same air, and care for each other's well-being. As he spoke, Han Junho held up bowls of rice, vegetables, and the spicy kimchi that had started everything. The camera transmitted the images across the galaxy. This is what humans offer the universe, Lee continued. Not conquest, not domination, but the simple belief that everyone deserves a place at the table, that no one should face hunger alone, that kindness is not weakness but the greatest strength any species can possess. The broadcast reached every ship in the battle, but more than that, it reached other species across the galaxy who had been hiding from Krellian expansion. On dozens of worlds, beings who had lived in fear began to understand that there might be another way. On the Krellian homeworld of Krell, citizens gathered around communication devices to hear this strange message from a species they had been told was weak and worthless. Many of them had never heard words like kindness or sharing before. The tide of battle began to change. More Krellian ships joined the rebellion against their own fleet. But battle leader Kexmore still commanded the largest portion of the Devastator fleet, and he was determined to complete his mission. If I cannot maintain order through command, I will do it through destruction, he announced. All remaining loyal vessels target the human homeworld. Maximum firepower. Turn their planet to ash. The remaining hardline Krellian ships formed a tight formation and began charging their planet-killing weapons. Earth had minutes left before complete annihilation. That was when Sub-Commander Vektar made the choice that would be remembered across the galaxy. His ship, the Krell's Might, was one of the most advanced vessels in the fleet. He turned it toward Kexmore's flagship and opened his communication channel one final time. This is Sub-Commander Vektar to all beings who can hear this transmission. The humans taught me that some things are worth dying for. Not glory, not conquest, but the idea that different species can sit at the same table and share their food as friends. He aimed his ship directly at the main weapon array of Kexmoor's flagship and engaged maximum thrust. Today I die not as a Krellian warrior, but as someone who learned what it means to be welcomed by strangers who chose to trust instead of fear. The collision destroyed both ships in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth's surface. The explosion disabled the main weapons of 3 other Krellian vessels, giving the human fleet and their new Krellian allies time to regroup. Battle leader Kexmoor survived the explosion, but his ship was crippled. As emergency systems failed, around him, he found himself listening to something he had never heard before. From the human vessels came a sound that was not a weapon or a threat. It was music. Earth's anthem was being broadcast by every human ship in the fleet. The melody was simple but beautiful, speaking of hope and home and the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. As Kexmoor's ship died around him, the last thing he heard was humans singing about their love for their world and their determination to protect it. He died not in glorious battle, but listening to a song about peace while the taste of shared kimchi from 3 days ago lingered somehow in his memory. The battle ended not with the destruction of Earth, but with the beginning of something new. The rebellion that started with a shared meal spread across the galaxy. Species that had hidden from the Krellians emerged to join the fight. The great empire that had conquered 17 worlds crumbled as its own soldiers chose compassion over conquest. War Prime. Teknal became the leader of the new Krellian Republic, dedicated to rebuilding relationships with the species they had once oppressed. The first law of the new government was simple: no being should ever eat alone. Years later, on the anniversary of the Battle of Earth, beings from dozens of species gathered at Station Nexus for a feast. At the center of the largest table sat an empty chair with a simple plaque. For Sub-Commander Vektar, who learned that sharing a meal can change the galaxy. Chef Han Junho, now much older but still cooking for anyone who was hungry, served the same dishes that had started it all. Rice, grilled meat, vegetables, and the spicy kimchi that had taught an empire what kindness tasted like. Commander Lee, now Admiral Lee, stood to address the gathering. Representatives from 43 different species sat around tables that had been joined together to form one enormous circle. No one sat at the head of the table because there was no head. Everyone was equal here. 5 years ago we thought we were about to die, Lee said. We thought our species would be erased from the galaxy like so many others before us. But we learned something important that day. The strongest weapon any species can possess is not a gun or a bomb or a warship. It's the willingness to offer food to a stranger. War Prime Thekanal, who now went simply by Thekanal, stood up from his place at the table. His armor was different now, decorated not with symbols of conquest, but with small images of different foods from different worlds. The humans saved us from ourselves, he said, not through force but through kindness. They showed us that there was an alternative to endless war. They showed us that the galaxy was big enough for all of us to share. An elderly Zellan farmer, one of the few survivors of his species near extinction, raised his cup of water. To the humans who chose to feed their enemies instead of fighting them. To Sub-Commander Vektar, who chose love over loyalty, added a young Krellian who had never known the old empire. To Chef Han Junho, who proved that the best diplomacy happens around a dinner table, said Dr. Song Haeun, now director of Interspecies Cultural Exchange. As the toast continued around the table, each species adding their own words of gratitude, Han Junho smiled quietly. He was just a cook who believed that everyone deserved a good meal. He never expected that this simple belief would reshape the galaxy. The feast lasted long into the night, with beings sharing food and stories from their homeworlds. Children of different species played together while their parents learned each other's languages and customs. It was everything the old Krellian Empire had tried to prevent, and it was beautiful. In the final hour before the celebration ended, a new tradition took place. Someone began humming Earth's anthem, the same song that battle leader Kexmoor had heard as he died. One by one, other voices joined in. Soon the entire gathering was singing together in dozens of different languages, but somehow the melody, remained the same. It was a song about home, about hope, about the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. But more than that, it was a song about the simple human idea that no one should face the universe alone. As the last notes faded into the silence of space, beings from across the galaxy sat together in comfortable quiet, sharing the peaceful feeling that comes after a good meal among friends. The Krellian Empire had fallen not to superior weapons or brilliant strategy, but to the revolutionary idea that strangers could become family if you simply invited them to dinner. And in the empty chair at the center of the table, where Sub-Commander Vektar's place would have been, sat a single bowl of kimchi, still steaming as if someone had just prepared it with love. The last alien had died screaming Earth's anthem, not in pain, but in recognition of a beauty he had never known existed. And from that scream, a new galaxy had been born, where every table had room for one more chair, and every meal was an invitation to friendship. The universe had learned to share,